Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We begin today with a conversation about hay quality. SUNUP's Dave Deacon caught up with our extension beef cattle specialist, Dave Lallman.
So Dave, looks like you're taking hay samples here.
Taking forage samples, getting ready to send it off to the laboratory.
So how does this work?
Well, this is just a PVC hay probe, and so it's got a sharp end here, and you just, as you see, you just push that into the bale of hay from the side so that you're getting every layer as it goes through the hay bale, and then it drops the sample. We push the sample out of the probe down into the PVC pipe here, and you get a nice sample that we recommend taking 10 bales of hay from each hay meadow, and then put that in the mailer to the laboratory that you're interested in doing business with.
Why is it important to actually get out and test the hay bales?
Well, I mean, knowledge is power, like we tell people all the time. And so, if this is a situation where you have a known quantity. If cattle are out grazing and standing forage, it's difficult to know what the quality is. But here it's harvested, you're going to go put it out, and you're most of the time you're going to be free choice feeding. And so, you can determine what the nutritive value of their diet is in this situation. Why not take advantage of that? And that way you can design a supplementation program that's appropriate for that lot of hay.
Kind of talk about running the numbers on a situation like that, where you do have different qualities of hay, and what that means to the cattle as they feed over the summer or over the winter. Yeah,
sure. Well, so we just recently, in fact, yesterday just looked at an example where, let's say we've got 5% crude protein prairie hay, which would be kind of at the lower end. That's not real high quality prairie hay. And in terms of digestibility, we use 50%, which is relatively low. And then we designed the supplementation program. We used 20% cubes, just as an example. And the cost per day was $1.46. And that got through the cows through the winter without gaining or losing weight. And it cost $1.46. Then we said, okay, what happens if we use 7% protein prairie hay, 57% TDN? Now, so a 757 would be nice quality prairie hay. That's pretty good hay. And then you would have to limit feed that prairie hay because they can eat a lot more of the 57 digestible hay than they can the 50. So at $1.46 a day, we were able to keep bumping the price of the hay from $70 a ton for the low quality hay up to $101 a ton for the nicer quality hay. And if you were to feed the higher quality hay through the winter, you'd wind up with cows in the same condition, spend the exact same amount of total dollars, and still have paid $101 per ton instead of 70. And if you hadn't sampled it, you might not have known. Every bale of hay is not worth $70 a ton. So that's the point. And the value can have a major impact on winter feeding costs.
And at the end of all this, like you said earlier, you'd send the samples into a lab. Now there's a lab here at OSU, but there's also labs around the country.
Sure, and actually there's a lot of good information on any of those websites, laboratories websites. Ours is the Soil, Water, and Forage Analytical Testing Laboratory here at OSU. They have instructions on how to take the samples, how to mail them in to the lab, and so on. For example, at that lab, crude protein analysis is going to cost $8 per sample. Protein plus energy, the TDN we were talking about, is going to cost $14. If you want a complete mineral profile, it'll cost you an additional $12. So for $26, you can get an entire profile of your hay crop.
Excellent. Well, Dave, thank you very much for showing us how to do all of this and telling us about the labs. And for a link to those labs, you can go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu for the labs, but also how to build one of these samplers too. sunup.okstate.edu.
Many times on the Cow-Calf Corner in the past, we visited with you about the importance of body condition or the fleshiness of cattle and how it affects reproduction. It's most important as we talk about 2-year-old heifers that are having their first calf. Why would we mention that now here in the fall of the year? Because now's the time when we can make some needed adjustments in terms of body condition by the ration that we feed these cattle throughout the course of the winter. Because next spring, when that 2-year-old calves, we want her in a body condition score of about a 6 on our 1 through 9 scale. If you look at this data that's now about 20 years old, coming from the University of Missouri, you can see the influence of body condition at the time that they calve and the change in body condition after they calve on the number of days it takes a heifer to start to recycle, to have a chance to rebreed after she has the calf. If a heifer in this particular study, the ones that they had the fleshiest amount was a 5.5. I wish they'd have went a half score higher. But in that data, those heifers that were maintained at that body condition after calving, it took them 89 days to recycle to have a chance to rebreed. And this is important to know because if she's going to have a calf on the same calendar date next year, she has to recycle and rebreed by 85 days. Now, quite frankly, it's pretty difficult for a 2-year-old heifer to maintain the body condition she's in right after she calves because she's lactating, growing, and it's difficult to keep that body condition on her. As we look at what might happen in the case of heifers that aren't in good body condition, say those that were in a body condition score 4 at calving time, now even though we can maintain that condition into and through the breeding season, what we find is that those heifers take about 40 days longer to recycle to have a chance to rebreed. Or they're going to either show up open when we preg check them the following year or have a calf a month and a half later than the rest of the cow herd. So, 2 things I think that we can learn from this data. Number 1, we need to think now about the feeding program for those bred heifers as they go through the fall and winter months, so that they're in that body condition score at least at 5.5, but close to a 6 by the time that they calve. Whether you're going to use some wheat pasture in a limited graze situation, or you're going to purchase some supplement to go onto the dormant Bermuda grass, native grasses, we've got to have those heifers in decent body condition at the time that they calve. The other part of that we can learn is the reason why we breed replacement heifers just a little bit earlier than the mature cows, because it just quite frankly, it's going to take longer to get them to recycle and to rebreed for next year's calf crop. Keep this in mind as we go through the winter this year. Get those heifers in good body condition at calving time, and we'll have a whole lot better luck getting them rebred on time for next year's calf crop. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
It's been an unusual fall in cattle markets, and here to talk about it is Darrell Peel, our livestock marketing specialist. And Darrell, talk about what's going on with these feeder cattle markets.
Well, we've continued to be surprised this fall with the strength in these cattle markets. You know, the cow-calf producers are selling calves this fall $150 to $200 higher than they were this time last year. We have not seen the normal seasonal decline through September and into early October, and more recently, we've actually seen these feeder cattle prices, these cash market prices go up counter-seasonally.
And don't we have more cattle actually at this point?
We do. You know, that's the surprising part of this, is that we had a bigger calf crop in 2017. The auction volumes and feeder cattle marketing volumes in general have been higher this fall, and yet we're seeing this strength in the markets despite that supply pressure.
In your opinion, what is driving this strength in the markets?
Well, it's coming at all levels of the industry, and it really, you know, ultimately, it really is a testament to the overall strength in demand in the beef industry. And so it's starting at the beef level, consumer level. It's coming back down through wholesale prices, through fed cattle prices, and into these feeder cattle markets. And so it really highlights the pleasantness of having a strong demand situation. It makes it much easier for all sectors of the industry to sort of be in positive mode at the same time.
And then in turn, how will this impact winter stockers?
Well, you know, stocker producers for the last month have been asking me when they were going to get a chance to buy these calves a little bit cheaper. They're looking for that seasonal decline, and you know, we told them it didn't look like it was going to be much of a decline. Now it's actually gone back up a little bit. But the other side of it is, if you look at where the futures markets have been, both the feeder and live cattle markets have been very strong. And so there actually was a good margin being offered out there. It's not a guarantee unless you actually go take a position in those futures markets, and it can change pretty quickly. There's quite a bit of volatility from day to day, but at times there have been a very good margin offered. So despite the fact that we didn't see the kind of buying opportunity we were looking for, it still seems to work for the stocker margins this fall.
And then how about feedlots that are buying these expensive feeders?
You know, again, the heavy feeders went up this fall, even earlier than the calves did. And same deal, and yet if you look at, again, based on those strength in futures markets, feedlots actually have an opportunity to sort of pencil in a decent feeding opportunity for these cattle. So again, it sort of works at all levels, and that's been the nice thing about it. Again, it's sort of based on these futures markets, which can be very volatile, so you got to really look at that and take advantage of those opportunities. They could go away very quickly, but in general, it's been a pleasant surprise this fall at pretty much all levels of the industry.
So enjoy it while it lasts.
Exactly.
Okay, Daryl Peel, thanks a lot. We'll see you again soon.
Hot, cold. Cycling from fall to summer-like weather and back again makes it hard on outdoor plants and animals. Just as they are setting into one season, it switches to another. An air temperature chart for the Chickasha Mesonet site shows the ups and downs in air temperatures from October 29th through November 7th. There were 3 periods when daytime highs were close to a balmy 75 degrees and 3 periods when the afternoon highs were close to a chilling 50 degrees. Our cold spells have cooled soil temperatures. North and west of a line from Elk City to Oklahoma City to Tulsa, the 3-day average of 4-inch soil temperatures was in the 50s. South and east of that line, 3-day soil temperature averages were in the 60s. The lowest soil temperature average was 50 at Eva in the Panhandle. The highest was 69 at Hugo and Idabel in the southeast. Soil moisture varied a lot across the state this week. On a map of the percent of plant available water in the top 16 inches, the brown and yellow areas show drier areas. Cherokee had only 7% of plant available water on November 6th. Here's Gary with a check on our latest drought status.
Well, thanks, Alan. Good morning, everyone. If we were in Denmark, I would say things are rotten. But we're in Oklahoma, so I'll simply say our weather's gone bad and it's fixing to get worse. And I'm talking about rainfall, or the lack thereof. Let's take a look at the latest Drought Monitor map and the sad rainfall statistics for the state. Well, if we focus down in southeastern Oklahoma, we can see an expansion of that D1 moderate drought, that's the light brown, over to the west. But we also see an increase in that yellow area, which is the abnormally dry conditions. That's the precursor to drought. So that concerns the 60 days plus that we have seen little rainfall in that area. Up in northwestern Oklahoma, we've also seen a little bit expansion of the D0 abnormally dry conditions, that yellow, but I think it needs to look much worse than that. Now, they did request that this week in the Drought Monitor. We didn't quite get it this week, so look for that next week possibly. And here's the problem. This is the consecutive days with less than a 1/4 inch of rainfall in any day. We had from 30 to 34 days without at least a 1/4 inch of rainfall on any single day across much of the western third of Oklahoma. So that is a drastic drying down across that part of the state. Now to look at this in a different way, this is the percentage of normal rainfall for October 9th through November 7th. And we can see lots of bad colors on there. And remember, this is percent of normal. In some cases, we're all the way down to 0% of normal out across western Oklahoma, but in general, less than 10% of normal. And, across most of the state, we are below normal according to the last 30 days. So that's where we're seeing that the drought start to develop and intensify. Now, we often say it's difficult to get a drought to intensify during the cool season, especially as we enter winter. But we have seen that in the past, and I'm afraid we're starting to see that again this winter. So this is something we need to keep an eye on, and hopefully we can get some rainfall or even snowfall and cut this off. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
The USDA has released the November WASDE report. Kim is here to talk about it. Kim, any significant changes for wheat?
Well, there's a minor change for wheat. USDA increased the wheat export by 25 million bushels and lowered the ending stocks by 25 million bushels. The good news there is that 25 million bushel increase in exports is with hard red winter wheat. And that surprised me with the current protein levels. We don't know if that 25 million bushels is feed wheat, milling wheat, or a combination of both, but at least it's hard red winter wheat. It's out of our supply.
Let's talk about corn and soybeans. Any surprises there in the report?
Well, there wasn't any surprises in soybeans, minor changes in beans, but with corn, the USDA raised their yield estimate to a record yield. They increased the corn production to 14.6 billion bushels. The highest pre-release estimate for that was 14.3 billion bushels, so it is well above the estimates and negative for corn.
How do you think the report's going to impact prices?
Well, with corn, I think with more yield, more corn, we've already had adequate corn. I think it's going to be negative for corn prices, and anytime you have negative for corn prices, it's going to be negative for wheat prices, because some of this wheat we have, especially hard red winter wheat, is feed wheat. We need to move that into the feed market, and with lower corn prices, that's going to hinder some of that.
Now, producers have pretty much wrapped up planting the 2018 crop. Do you think the current situation is going to impact management practices moving forward?
Well, the scuttlebutt on the street is that with low prices, the producers are going to be less likely to put nitrogen and fertilizer and chemical, fungicides, herbicides on the wheat to get good quality production. I think there is a tendency to do that, and if they do that, I think that'll have a negative impact for prices for the 18 crop.
And then, in turn, how should producers react to current and then expected prices?
Well, I think they've got to ignore these lower prices. If you're a wheat producer, you're a wheat producer, and you've got to produce a quality product that the market wants and needs, and the only way to do that is to use best management practices to get that test weight up, get that protein up, and have a good milling product.
Kim, always good talking to you. We'll see you again next week.
Hi, welcome to Shop Stop. Do you ever try to grease a piece of equipment and then your grease gun gets stuck on the zerk?
Well, we're going to show you a simple method of how you can properly install and remove the coupler from the greaser. And it sounds simple, but we've all been in that situation where it's gotten stuck on there and we've yanked and dang near put our eyes out, or have stretched the hose out 3 feet long trying to get the thing off of there. So we're going to show you real quick, and what you'll want to do is you'll want to rotate your coupler onto your nozzle like that. Now, we've deadheaded this and it's stuck, so Randy can't get that off there. Try pulling that straight up.
I could put Wayne's eye out with this, but I'm not going to.
So what he wants to do is he wants to take it off the way he put it on, so he's going to rotate it and see how that removed without having to stretch the the grease nipple out or anything. So that's a quick way of how to install a coupler onto a grease fitting.
And now you know which grease zerks you need to start replacing. So you'll know right away, once you start to see the grease coming around and it's not going in the zerk after you've got it properly installed, then maybe that's a zerk that needs to be replaced.
Yeah, if your coupler's straight and you're on there, it's either going to be that zerk more than likely that needs to be replaced when it's leaking like that. If it's not taking grease at all, we had shot a segment before about how to make these grease zerks run grease through them in an earlier segment. So you can look that one up on the website.
Finally today, just in time for the OQBN sale in Kay County next weekend, we're visiting a ranching family to learn how the value-added livestock management program has worked for their operation.
We've been on the buying end, buying some stocker calves. You could bring them in here and it didn't matter how you treated them, how you vaccinated them, the day you got them in, they could still lay down and die. With these cattle, it's worked out better. I'm raising healthier cattle, and it's much easier on the buyers to be able to come in here and know that they're getting vaccinated, healthy cattle.
The first year that the OSU and Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association started this program, we got word that they had this program and was going to have some sales around, so we visited with them about having one with us at Blackwell.
Well, Gary and I have been associated for a long, long time. I was a little kid when first time I got around Gary, and he's always treated us real fair. Gary sent a letter out, said we was going to have a free supper if you come down and listen to these guys from OSU. And we went down and we listened to them, we talked about it, and we talked premiums, and we talked quality, and we talked vaccination programs, which was new to a lot of us to handle them that way. And then they asked us to keep them for 45 days instead of 2 weeks. Are you kidding me? You really want me to feed them another 2 or 3 weeks? You know what that's going to cost me? And that was the advantage of going down to the seminars. The guys put it on paper and showed us, you know, if you gain so many pounds a day, times whatever the market price is of the day, this is how it's going to come out.
He does a lot of his thinking at night after he goes to bed. So it wasn't surprising the next morning over coffee, he's going, you know, I think this makes sense. I think we ought to try this.
The OQBN program essentially is just a way to increase communications amongst all segments of the beef industry. That's really what we're doing. The idea behind it is we can develop a product, the calf, that is a product that we're proud to be selling. We have the genetics in it, we're raising really nice calves. So the other component to that is the health of that animal. We're actually carrying that calf past the time in its life that it's stressed the most. About 2 weeks is when we really expect those calves to break and get sick.
Oh yeah, it works great for us. It has, not only for me and him, but our kids are involved, and it's an easy explanation for them. It's in black and white. Here's what we do. Here's what's expected of us.
We're proud of what we raise, and in the past years we were already vaccinating our cattle and weaning them, and we wasn't receiving the premiums because we were just mixed in with regular cattle. And this provided us a marketing edge to go ahead and prove our genetics that we've worked for and set us up a nice program to where people know what we're raising.
The OQBN sale that day is top of the line. I mean, the cattle the quality is exceptional, and all the bookwork that the producers keep for their genetics and their vaccination. It's a good program.
To To learn more about the sale in Kay County next week, as well as other OQB and sale dates, just go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu. And that'll do it for us this time. Remember, you can find us anytime on our website and also follow us on YouTube and social media. We leave you today with a very special Veterans Day salute. More than 6,900 American flags humbly gracing the library lawn on the Oklahoma State University campus this week, each representing a service member who gave his or her life defending the United States in the global war on terror. On behalf of all of us at SUNUP, I want to say thank you to all veterans for your sacrifice and your service. We'll see you next week.